The number is that 45% of working-aged Albertans don't have the literacy skills they need to do the jobs in the economy consistently, reliably. And that's partly because jobs have changed so much over the last few years. Every job is now a digital job, so everybody needs to be able to use technology. We had jobs in the past where that just wasn't the case. And so everybody has to read in their jobs to some extent. And a lot of people don't read really well. So they can decode words, they can read, they can take information off a page, but they can't really understand the full amount of the information and then incorporate it into their daily work, to use it to solve problems and to stay on top of the job. And so, as jobs change, that the fact that a lot of people aren't reading really well enough is making them actually less productive. They're not working as well in their job. So they may be the first to be laid off. They may be the one that the boss is always mad at. They may be the one that actually has workplace accidents. There are a lot of things that are caused by people who don't have the literacy skills that they need. I'm not saying everybody that has an accident has low literacy skills. This is just the average kind of situation that happens. And jobs continue to change regularly. There's more and more technology being added. People are being asked to be more customer service focused. That requires an understanding of how to solve the problems that customers bring to you. Often that is in the instruction manual or the handbook or something like that, or in an email from your boss. And if you don't read that clearly and well, you may give the wrong information to a customer. You may actually escalate the problem rather than de-escalate it. All of these kinds of things are becoming much more common in jobs. And people who can't read well enough to really learn how to do the new requirements of the job are just having more and more trouble. Another thing that we found in our research is that a country doesn't become richer after it educates its population. It becomes richer because it educates its population. The more people in the country with good literacy skills, the better the economy is going to be. And that is because as we become more and more literate, we become more productive. And in fact, a 1% increase in average literacy skills in a population, when used within the workforce in that population, can actually increase productivity by 5%. And that equates to GDP of 3%. GDP in a country will go up by 3% if you increase literacy skills by 1%. That's a huge return. And in Canada, at current rates, that's about $60 billion. Now, we're going to go and talk about recommendations soon, and the recommendations that I'm making on how to solve this problem wouldn't cost us $60 billion. Well, actually, Alberta students do really well on the international assessment, on the PISA, which is done every 3 years across the OECD. So an awful lot of countries in the world are using this test for their 15-year-olds. Canada comes out at about the OECD average, and Alberta comes out at the top end of what goes on in Canada, so slightly higher than the OECD average. They've done well for years, but the difference between the OECD average and what Albertan students have had, the advantage, let's say, is actually getting smaller. And oh yes, we are compared to our peers, but there's an awful lot of countries that are actually increasing their literacy rates faster than we are. And the drop in scores for 15-year-olds is a bit worrisome as the demand for literacy in the workforce and in learning throughout life is actually going up. So we don't want to see that happen. The other thing about the 15-year-olds that's really scary is that 25% of them say that reading is a waste of time, and 50% of them only read when they absolutely must. And that is going to mean that their literacy skills are going to go down because we need to practice the literacy skill that we have in order to maintain it and to improve it, just like we do with any other muscle in our body. Literacy is gained and lost across the lifespan, depending on the instruction that you receive, and the way you use your literacy skills. So if you use them, you will maintain them and perhaps build them over time. If you don't use them, you will lose them. So my recommendations for this go across the lifespan, but it starts at birth. Parents have to talk to their children to build the language skills in their children, because what's the use of being literate if you don't understand the language, right? We have to have the words in our brains so that the squiggles on the page make sense to us, right? So first of all, it's language. We have to help parents to understand the importance of talking and playing with their children, and then reading to their children right from birth. No child should go to school without having held a book, preferably even chewed a book. And unfortunately, there are children in this province that come to school not having done that. They've never held a crayon. They don't know, they're not ready to learn how to read. So we need to make sure that parents and the community are supporting literacy in the home. And half of daycare workers on a survey that was done last year said that they don't do literacy activities with the young children that they are looking after on a daily basis. That needs to change. If you're in daycare, you should be getting, your day should be full of literacy-rich activities, so that by the time you get to school, you're ready to learn. When you do get to school, you need teachers who will assess you as to where you're at and know where you're having problems in your reading readiness. And then we need really good quality instruction so that children are learning how to read. And then if they're struggling, that they get the extra instruction and the extra help that they need to learn. Because in truth, almost every child can learn to read really, really well. Virtually every child, even students with learning disabilities, if given the right instruction and the right practice over time, will learn. So it starts at birth, it goes into school. By the time they're 15, we need to have more 15-year-olds who are saying, I love to read. So we need to get materials to them that are interesting, fun to read, meet their needs in terms of what they want to learn, what they want to do, what they're interested in. We need up-to-date materials in school libraries and in school curriculum. And then when you graduate from high school, often you go on to post-secondary, but there are kids that graduate that don't have enough literacy skill to really learn effectively and efficiently. So we recommend that the post-secondaries actually check to make sure that their incoming students have the literacy skills to learn efficiently, so they're not struggling with the reading part of the learning that they're doing. And then if we can do that, then they can, if they've done the assessment and they know what's needed, then they can provide some extra instruction, maybe as a pre-course or embedded in those first few courses in the program, so that kids are actually building their literacy skills as they're learning. Once you hit the workforce, employers have a major part to play, because employers are the beneficiaries of literacy skill, and also conversely, they suffer if their employees don't have the literacy skills that are needed. So employers can embed literacy into the work, into the training that they're doing with new employees, and when they upskill and reskill the employees that they've got. And then finally, just across the lifespan, community programs, agencies, the library, all of the places where people go and congregate need to have a literacy focus. We need to advocate for literacy materials and the promotion of literacy across the lifespan, well into old age.